Yeah. So fast forward, you photographed everyone, Tupac, York, Springsteen. Obviously, we'll get into that whole chapter of your life. But was there a career defining moment, Danny, when you were like, you know what? I can do this for a living. Like, this is the shoot that I've done that I know that this is going to be my career path.
Hmm. Well, it's funny. One of my very first assignments that I got for a major magazine was shooting for Spin. And
Which
my
is
friend Elizabeth
who this
Grubaugh,
podcast is brought to you by the way.
exactly. And I got my first, major cover on Spin magazine as well.
Amazing.
And so, with Perry.
Amazing.
So, so it's a good circle, six
Yeah.
degrees of separation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got an assignment through my friend Elizabeth Grubaugh, who became one of the assistant photo editors there, to photograph Third Base, and the hip hop group Third Base, and I was super stoked on it, and I was just scared to death. It was like that sink or swim moment, and I went out there and I said, if I can take a photograph that looks good in the magazine, then I feel like I'm on my path. And I took the assignment. I went out and I nailed it. In my opinion, I got a photograph that was going to look great in the magazine, and it did. And it was the start of also realizing, or sort of confirming, that relationships are so important in any business and any, even personally, business-wise and marriage. Relationships are so important. And I met MC Search that day, and he and I just kind of connected. Like, we liked each other. We started talking about music and what was he up to. And so I took those photographs. Not only did I take those photographs to Def Jam and showed the art directors there my work. They first refused. They said, just drop it off and we'll look at it, and you can pick it up the next day. And I talked my way into actually seeing them. I have these Third Base images. I own them. I'd love for you to see them. I went in. It was Steve Carr and Say Adams were the drawing board at Def Jam Records. And Say, who is still just a really good friend of mine to this day, they were my age. They were young. They were excited. They were working in hip hop. They were working at a record label. They were designing records. We were all like, wow, this is an incredible
Coolest
opportunity.
job ever, right?
Yeah. And so they started to hire me over there. And then Search hit me up fairly soon after and said, hey, I'm working on this record with this guy named Nasty Nas, and I think you're the guy to shoot the album packaging. It's a great record. He gave me the cassette, which I wish I still had to this day. And it was, Illmatic. And he was like, this guy wants to be photographed, in his neighborhood where he grew up. These songs are about his neighborhood. They're songs about his, his inner circle of friends and his life, in the projects there in Queensbridge. And I was like, yeah, man, this is incredible. And just such an amazing and cinematic album. And I went up there, I met with Nas. We did this shoot, which is, I had no idea was going to become an epic, historic hip hop record for all time. Yeah. And I worked on, it was written. And then I started to, get my foot in the door, shooting a lot of hip hop album covers. I did, my first one actually was Return of the Funky Man with Lord Finesse. I did some stuff for Public Enemy, some singles. I was able to photograph LL Cool J and Run DMC. And I did Redman's record, The Dark Side, There's a Dark Side. I did Kanye's first record. And so, these relationships, not only with the artists, but their management or the publicists, all became really important to me. And I recognize that. And, I just try to treat everybody like I like to be treated. So those relationships, just became stronger. And then people moved into Shelby Mead, who got me a shoot with Pete Rock and CL Smooth. She moved into, working for, I guess, Radiohead and the Beastie Boys and, Sparkle Horse and all these other bands. And so all those artists, Perry, for example, Perry loved, Public Enemy. Yeah. And, so when I got to show my work to those artists, it translated really well. And it became, again, a long relationship I have with Perry to this day. So.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the relationship, especially in music photography, with your subjects, right? Versus sometimes if you're like a fashion photographer and you shoot a model once and then maybe you never see them again. These are long-standing relationships that you've had with these models.